Good evening. My name is Emily Hankey, and I will be discussing the cost concepts in managerial analysis case. To get started, the case deals with English University Library, who collects donations of books and then sells all the gathered inventory twice a year. The donations department is run by two people, the head librarian and a graduate student. And the graduate student works 20 hours a week for 13 weeks at a rate of $10 per hour, and this is only done between the fall and spring semesters. The library uses space for the donations department in the basement, and the costs are about $1,200. The only cost that varies is the RFID tags, which are 50 cents each, and an average of 1,000 books are collected each year. However, as many as 1,200 books can be processed by the graduate student and the librarian in a year. So I'm going to go into the activity measure that the case discusses. And an activity measure is an allocation base that's used as the denominator for an activity cost pool. And the case focuses on the number of books that are processed in the donations department. So the number of books processed can be considered the cost driver because this can cause the total cost to change. However, because of the salary of the librarian, the stipend for the graduate student, and the facility costs being fixed costs, the number of books processed is not the cost driver. So we look at the cost driver as being how many RFID tags in total that are purchased to the correct number of books being processed. So the relevant range of the case, this is defined as the range of activity that assumes the assumption that cost behavior is strictly linear, is reasonably valid, and in the case, the RFID must fall within the relevant range in order to prove the validity of cost structure and behavior. The current relevant range is 0 to 1,200, and this indicates what's currently being processed. However, the request shows the number of books processed exceeds the normal range. So the committee needs to take this into consideration. The cost analysis, so on the chart is a breakdown of the cost analysis, and we see librarian salary, $12,000. This is a fixed cost. It's also committed. Then the graduate assistant stipend is $5,200. This is variable, which means it depends on how much more help the student would need in order to increase workload. So if we need to add another student on to helping out, this is also a committed cost. Then we have the facility costs of $1,200, which is fixed and also committed. And finally, we have the RFID tags, which again, 50 cents a tag, and this is a variable cost. We can see that if the department only processes and gets a donation of 1,000 books, we need 1,000 times 50 cents to get $500. Or if they get the higher part of the relevant range, 1,200 books, we would then have to divide 1,200 by 50 cents to get $600. So all the costs associated with the donations department are classified as direct costs. This is because each cost is directly related to a particular cost object. And cost behavior examines how costs react to activity changes within and outside the relevant range. Cost traceability is how costs are assigned to cost objects. For example, the department and the books being processed. And finally, cost flexibility is costs that are independent to the department. So next we're going to discuss unit cost, and this is the average cost of production divided by the number of units. And the unit cost is used by, being used by the budget committee isn't appropriate because it doesn't necessarily consider other factors such as the $1,000 profit per year that the book sales provide. So they don't deduct this from the overall cost. And going into the revised cost computation, so on the left, you see what I have deemed as how the committee should look at it and what they should take into consideration. And again, the $1,000 book sales should be deducted to get that total cost. And the total unit cost should be $11.70. So the first point, what I found what was wrong is that the cost data and calculations that the committee came up with failed to factor in the increasing productivity of adding more staff. The second point, what I found wrong with it is that the cost structure should have been based off of the fixed cost, and because it wasn't, it caused the unit price to be off. Finally, with the third statement, the student stipend should not have been included. The cost savings would only result in the RFID tags not being used, and the committee failed to recognize the advantage that the revenue from the department really brings to the university. So in conclusion, the committee should reconsider the benefits that the donations department brings to the university. The pay of the librarian and the graduate student, as well as the facility costs, are fixed, and the RFID tags are variable costs. And this calculation helps get me to the total unit costs per book of being $11.70. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.